Well, let's start with one of the reports from Friday night that carried over into the weekend. Corey Kluber signs a deal with the New York Yankees. 1 year, $11 million. Forget about the performance bonuses for a guy that started 8 times in the past couple years. This is real money, Ken, that the Yankees are giving out and getting very close to that luxury tax number as well.
It is, and clearly they have faith that Corey Kluber can be the guy in the playoffs to slot behind Gerrit Cole. Now, coming off 36 2/3 innings the past 2 seasons combined, he'll probably be only good for 140 to 160 in the regular season. They'll need to pace him. But they obviously think that he is ready to be close to what he once was, which was a 2-time Cy Young winner. Now, there are 2 things to keep in mind here. One, that bullpen session last week, number of teams attended, something like 25 teams. They all thought he looked good. Now, it's a bullpen session, we all know that, but the Yankees also have kind of a secret weapon in this process, and that's Eric Cressey. Eric Cressey is Kluber's longtime performance coach, who happens to work for the Yankees now. He's the director of player performance, and he knows Kluber perhaps as well as anyone. Matt Blake, the pitching coach, used to work at Cressey's training center as well. So the Yankees clearly feel this is the guy, but hey, Scott, there definitely are questions. No doubt about that.
I was just surprised at the number. I thought that it would be a contract with, say, I don't know, $3-4 million, Val, and then you have to earn it. You haven't pitched much the last couple years, so if you pitch, great, we'll pay you. We'll get you up to 11, maybe even more. But if nothing happens for Corey Kluber this year and he can't recover well from the shoulder, he still gets himself $11 million. That's a good deal.
I thought just jumped into my mind. The Dark Knight of the Mets were signed by the Angels, 2 years ago, and I believe he was at 9 or 11.
9.
So I'm going, okay, I like the pedigree a whole lot more of Kluber than I did of the Dark Knight.
Matt Harvey, and that didn't work out for the most
Clearly.
part.
But I think the fact that he only had 36 innings, I think at this stage of his career, yes, there were some injuries last year. It happened early, so they shut him down very quickly. It almost could be like a respite for him that now he's had some time off. He's able to heal. The fact that he has 2 guys in their camp that know him, who could evaluate him at a much deeper level, I'm taking a flyer on Kluber. There's no doubt about it.
Scott, you talked about the $11 million, and a lot of fans had the same question. How is this possible? Evidently, it's a market-driven deal. There were other teams clearly bidding at a high level as well, and the Yankees needed to get to that number to get Kluber. Now, you can ask, is this a worthwhile risk when you've got Tanaka still sitting out there? Would Tanaka have been a better choice? Would James Paxton or any of these other guys? And the fact that the Yankees chose Kluber speaks volumes to what they evaluated in the free agent market. And it was a little surprising to a lot of people. I'm surprised still. And, Scott, you mentioned their luxury tax issues. They still need pitching, more starting pitching, and they're within, according to the rosterresource.com estimate, about $10 million of the threshold, which they do not want to exceed in 2021.
And don't you want some money for midseason if you want to make a trade as well?
Sure, and ultimately, they might need to make a trade at some point. Ottavino has been speculated upon as one possibility. They might want a veteran starter before they get to the season, and maybe you get one in a trade or on an inexpensive free agent deal. You take a flyer on someone. Maybe you do make a trade at midseason after you kind of look at all of those names you just saw and assess where you are.
What do you think about what Val said? Because I remember a year ago saying what you said, Val, going, hey, he barely pitched, and it was more of a freak injury a couple years ago. Maybe that's a good thing for someone in his mid-30s. Now it's another year removed with a shoulder issue this time around. How much concern is there?
There has to be concern when you haven't pitched that much. But I like what Val said. And I don't know that it's going to come to pass, but if you remember, Corey Kluber would fade in the playoffs the last couple of years that he was healthy. He was a guy who seemed to be gathering a lot of physical wear and tear. So now he has had time to recover, and again, he looked supposedly great in that bullpen session last week. Is it a worthwhile gamble? Sure. Is it a worthwhile gamble at the expense of who you did not sign and for the money? That remains to be seen.
And that's a good point. Kluber pitched a lot for the Indians. They worked him. They were a playoff team. Year after year, he made it to the postseason and was a guy that they relied on, especially, of course, that World Series year when they made it against the Chicago Cubs. All right, on to the next.